Muito boa noite, caros colegas. Vamos começar o terceiro webinar da Sociedade Portuguesa de Pneumologia, dedicado à pandemia Covid-19 e as implicações a nível da nossa especialidade. E eu tenho o enorme gosto de estar em presença de dois colegas italianos que têm sido, de facto, uns dos líderes de opinião nos últimos anos acerca dos cuidados respiratórios em doentes com insuficiência respiratória aguda e insuficiência respiratória crónica agudizada. São dois líderes de opinião que merecem todo o nosso respeito e a quem eu agradeço vivamente estarem connosco hoje, enfim, porque passam-se situações complexas no país deles e eles poderem nos dar um pouco do seu tempo é para nós, de facto, um enorme gosto. So, my first words are to greet you, to thank you so much for your time to be here with us. So, the COVID-19, COVID, as we say it, 19 pandemic here in Portugal is starting. So we have less than 500 cases and 2.5% of cases are in the ICU. You are already in a phase that is really very, very high. So with 40,000 and much more like 3 times the patients in the ICU. So you have a lot of experience. So we are looking forward really for your insights, for your ideas, for us to be aware and be prepared for this tsunami that is arriving. And the first speaker, it's really a great honor. Everybody knows Professor Nicolino Ambrosino is currently the editor-in-chief of our journal, Pulmonology. He's now the scientific director of the Margeri Institute, and his curriculum is really unbelievable. And so we are really very lucky to have you here tonight to tell us a little bit about what is the day after, what we will expect for the current situation for the next future. So thank you again, Nicolino, for being with us. Let's hear you. Thank you.
Obrigado, João. So, good evening to everybody. So I have just a few slides because João has already said what is the disastrous situation in Italy, and up to today at 6 o'clock, the infection was for more than 40,000 people. The dead are more than in China, more than 3,000, and so lethality or mortality anyway is 80.2. which is more than the double of the Chinese. And the number of patients per million of inhabitants is more than 600, which is by far largest than any other country, including China. We are followed by Switzerland, which is close to us, as number per million of patients. So coming to this evening, I have just to put some topics to discuss with you, because I guess that the most important, you see the slides?
Yes.
Because I guess that the most important presentation is by Cesare, and I will say what is the epidemiology of this, and we have to put some questions why there are so big differences between the epidemiology in each country. Of course, in Italy, this started 10 days earlier than in other European countries, but we are really amazed about the spread of the infection and the severity of the infection and the mortality of death. There have been some discussion about what test we have to use. If we have to use the test by the mouth or the nose, or sampling the blood to see for the antibodies, or taking into account just the clinical picture and the CT scan. And so we have some different patients. We have patients who are without any symptoms. They are the most dangerous patients because they are able. Fortunately, this situation confirms the idea that you have for Italians. We are anarchists, and so we very seldom respect. Despite this time, most of the population respects. But yesterday in Lombardia, tracing the telephone, the cellular tracing, they have calculated that about 40% of the population moves. So there is still many things to do. And the other point is that about the treatment of acute respiratory failure that will be treated by Cesare. And finally, I think that we have to discuss about one, the organization of care. Because what happened, and I don't know if Cesare agrees, what happened is that the present organization of care of the hospital in Italy is not enough, because there are some issues about the organization, because probably we have to discuss how many critical beds we need, and probably in the future we have to reduce the beds for other specialties like rheumatology or dermatology or whatever, to concentrate the resources on the critical patient. We will discuss all later. And finally, the ethical problems, because now it appears clearly that if the ICU beds are not enough, there will be a choice of the patient. And this is strictly related to the epidemiology, because personally, I don't know where and when in the natural history of the disease the patient die. All the patients die in the ICU, or they die, some of them die before entering the ICU. And this poses us many ethical questions. So I will show you very shortly the picture of the infection. This is the black are the dead. This is up to 2 days ago, and this is the diffusion of the disease among in Italy. You can see that in Lombardia it is by far the greatest. Now I guess tonight are about 20,000 infections, and this is the comprehensive picture of the disease. And you can see that there is a greater prevalence in the north of Italy and by far less in the south. This could be related first to the time of insurgence of the disease, and this is not good, because we have to expect that even in the south in the next days or weeks the disease will spread, and this would be a disaster, because the level of assistance, except some exception like the Cesare's hospital in Palermo, but generally the level of health system in the south is not as effective like in the north. And the second point could be related, some say, to pollution, because what happened to the prevalence of the virus was born in China, in one of the most polluted areas in the world, and then went through other countries, and in Pianura Padana, the Padan platform is one of the most polluted places. So some think that there is a relationship between pollution and easiness to spread of the disease. And these are the age of the patient. So most of the patients are so-called older, and I am very upset because they say that the older people are 65 and more. So I am 72, so I am an old, I am in danger, and but it is growing some prevalence also among the so-called youngest people. And finally, we discuss what will happen after this. So again, organization of the hospital, the programs of the university. For example, we have realized that our education as pulmonologists is absolutely not enough in the academic, because all our experience and knowledge about acute respiratory failure, non-invasive ventilation, mechanical ventilation, for us pulmonologists went from practice. But there are no real teaching of these topics in the school. So we needed to completely change the programs of the university specialization. And finally, a point of how to educate the patient, because this is we have seen that we need more education, especially to respect what the scientists say.
Thank you so much, Nico. This was really what we wanted, just to address the Italian situation and maybe to inform us a little bit about the differences between North and South. And you mentioned pollution, which is an interesting phenomena. They also say about, is it because of the virus itself that has changed from China to Europe, and maybe there are some strains that are more lethal and they are the ones that you got? We still don't know that, but maybe you have also some information on that. Maybe we can discuss that in the end. So now I would just move to Professor Cesare Gregoretti, which is one of the key opinion leaders on non-invasive ventilation, is well known across the world. He's working in Palermo, in the University of Palermo, in the Institute of Reanimation and Anesthesia. And so it's a really good honor, a good opportunity for us to understand what is the best setup if we want to treat our respiratory failure patients with NIV. What would be the ideal setup? So please, Professor Gregoretti, elude us a little bit about what is the best setup with your recommendation for us that are still not in the front line of the great tsunami.
You introduced some very important topics. I decided not to showing any slides for one simple reason, because I guess that we have to start to speak before how to ventilate the patients. I guess that the most important thing is how to defend ourselves from the corona. So the problem is to put the DPI in the correct way. And the second one, how to avoid pollution from the environment and how to avoid pollution of the operator during the use of invasive and non-invasive ventilation. And last but much more important, how we have to define this new coronavirus acute respiratory failure. So I would like to start from the very beginning. So first of all, we need to defend ourselves from corona. So it's mandatory that we need to dress in the right way, absolutely in the right way, anyway, anytime we decide to face this kind of patient. Even if you have any doubt if the patient have corona, we have to defend and to dress in the right way. For example, we decided in our institution to have a dedicated track when the patient come to the emergency with some clue of having a corona infection. That means the patient arrive complaining for cough, for fever, okay, from many days. We decide the patient have possible corona infection. We decide to move the patient to the CT scan, but we are already protected, okay, and then we put the patient in a protected environment. We decide to perform the swab to the patient. Then, if the patient is positive, because we are not COVID hospital, we transfer the patient to the COVID hospital. In case the patient needs intubation, because it's already belonging to the category of the patient who need intubation, that means high respiratory rate, low P2 FIO2 ratio, and we decide to intubate the patients, we perform a bronchoalveolar lavage, okay? If the bronchoalveolar lavage is positive, again, we move the patient to the COVID hospital. The BAL is negative because we are a no-COVID hospital. Even the patient is affected by an interstitial pneumonia, we admit the patient to no-COVID area. This is our ICU. This is very important because we have to remember that we have to split no-COVID and COVID, because there are still patients that need to be cured in our country, and this patient could be put in our environment that is different, the one from the convenient one, the COVID one. The second important point is to try to understand what the COVID acute respiratory failure is. It's not a conventional ARDS patient. Absolutely nothing. Yes, I can say nothing to do according to what the people told me. The people are the people that are coming from the north. I talked to the Giacomo Bellani, to the other guy, Roberto Cosentini, who work in Bergamo, and all agree that the main feature of this kind of disease is that the patient does not feel any kind of breathing at a quite low respiratory rates. Even they have a very low PO2 FIO2 ratio. I told yesterday that the patient arrived at the emergency walking and then had a cardiac arrest. Okay, but the patient have no any kind of feeling of dyspnea. This is one of the major features of the disease. And the other important feature of disease, and this is going to be published in New England, I guess in a few days, is that according to some data that was collected by Luciano Gattinoni, the patient is not, does not have any kind of defense in terms of pulmonary vasoconstriction. So that what does mean? What this point is very, 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 very important during the treatment, because at the beginning of the treatment of this disease, and even in this continuous mode at the center, they are using very light PEEP, even when the patient is still in spontaneous breathing CPAP mode. Even 15 or 16 of CPAP, or use even very high level 18 of PEEP when they are undergoing invasive ventilation. And they see very high improving in terms of PO2 FIO2 ratio. Why? Because probably we have because the patient does not have a pulmonary vasoconstriction, we have a diversion of the flow toward the healthy part of the lung. In this way, we have a cosmetic effect of PEEP. But really, in this way, we risk to kill the healthy lung. So at the end, probably the message, the clinical message is, yes, we need to apply PEEP. We need to reach what I could say, a good level of PO2-VO2 ratio, but we have not to reach a cosmetic effect. What does it mean? We had a patient with 70 of PO2-VO2 ratio. Now with 12 of PEEP, we have 150, okay, in CPAP mode. The patient went down as a respiratory rate. For example, the patient arrived with 25 respiratory rates. Now is 16 or 15. The PO2 ratio is 150. Okay, we have to accept this condition in CPAP mode, because if you decide to intubate the patient, the main feature of the patient is the compliance of the respiratory system. In 90% of the patient is still high. Most of the patient have a very quite good compliance. For example, we can have patient with a very low PO2 ratio, but the compliance is still 50. Again, if you use a very high PEEP in this patient, we could potentially find a very good result in terms of PO2-VO2 ratio, but this is mainly due because we are shifting, diverting the flow toward the part of the lung that have a low PO2-VO2 ratio, but we have no vasoconstriction, and we are diverting the flow due to the PEEP to the part of the lung with a high ventilation perfusion ratio. But in this way, for sure, we have an increase of PO2-VO2 ratio, but at that time we have the risk to over-distending the lung. So again, the message is not to use too very high PEEP. Okay, the PEEP that allowed you to reach 91% of oxygen saturation. The other important message is when the person, the guy arrive or the girl arrive to the emergency room, we can have two possibilities. The guy have a low PO2 ratio, a low respiratory rate, is not complaining for dyspnea. Well, maybe we need to treat also this kind of patients, because it's a guess of the people in Bergamo, and the Bergamo is they have the higher number of the pandemic. They guess that they start to treat the patient at the very beginning with CPAP, okay, genuine CPAP, no other kind of NIPPV. So the message is NIPPV should not be used in this patient, because the risk is to increase transpulmonary pressure, and by increasing transpulmonary pressure, we can increase what it is labeled as self-inflicted lung injury. So unfortunately, we cannot measure transpulmonary pressure. Even there is some message, Luciano Gattinoni said, maybe you need to measure transpulmonary pressure. It's impossible to have time to measure transpulmonary pressure. We cannot measure tidal volume. We have an invention. We have a patent right now. With some ventilator, we can measure tidal volume, but it's not the case right now to discuss this invention because the number of patients is huge. We can just trust in patient respiratory rates. If a patient respiratory rate is low, okay, and we are able to increase with CPAP the PO2-VO2 ratio, yes, we can still maintain the patient in CPAP mode. But the patient is going from the right to the left. This means is increasing the respiratory rate. Even the PO2 VO2 ratio is still good, we need to intubate this patient. So we have to take care of the respiratory drive and the respiratory rate. Yes, we have to couple this information also with PF, but from my personal point of view, the message that I got for my colleague is that measuring dyspnea is really important. Measuring respiratory rates is really important. If CPAP is able to maintain a low respiratory rate and maintain a low Bohr scale or whatever you want, you can measure even dyspnea with a VIS, visual analogic score. If you do it every day, if you do it every 4 hours, 6 hours, and you are able to maintain these patients with this characteristic, you can avoid intubation. In Turin, we are doing a pilot study with our invention since 10 years ago. Dr. Mattei is doing it. All the patient is monitored with tidal volume. They are using Philips ventilator. These Philips are equipped with a software that is able to measure tidal volume in CPAP mode using an intentional leak system. Obviously, the system is filtered with antiviral devices, so the intentional leaks is filtered. All is absolutely safe, and they are wearing helmet. This helmet generation is able to allow no leaks, not intentional leaks using CPAP. So after 10 days, more than 10 days, and right now they have 11 patients, you have not wrong, no one patient was intubated. No one patient. There are small numbers so far. Compared to the number of patients, for example, they have yesterday in Monza. In Monza, yesterday, they had 80 patients. And so far, if I'm not wrong, they did in Lombardia about more than 3,000 patients in CPAP. And the success rate they had in CPAP, I guess, is quite good. They have no number right now, but I guess it's more than 30, 35. You have also to consider that they also have some patients in CPAP mode that are DNI patients, do not to intubate. So they will receive CPAP until the end of their disease. So the message I can give you, yes, you can do non-invasive ventilation, but you can do this in CPAP mode. If you don't have helmet, you can use total full face mask. But the problem, you use total full face mask, unfortunately, you can use intentional leak system, because with intentional leaks, with conventional vented mask, you have a huge contamination of the environment, and theoretically, you should use a non-vented mask, and you can use a whisper swivel, the new whisper swivel, for example, from Philips, they have a special port that can be connected to an antiviral filter to avoid pollution. The problem is just one, and we were discussing this with Richard Branson, who is the editor of respiratory care in the United States. The problem is with the helmet, if the patient coughs, you have no contamination. With a total full face mask, if the patient coughs, you have contamination of the environment, because for sure you have leaks. This is a main problem. But the problem is that at the present time in Italy, we have no more helmet, even for us, okay? And we have the army that is working inside the factory to increase the number of production of the helmet. So the problem in Portugal, in the other country, if you don't have helmet, you cannot buy helmet by Italian company. This is the reason, because with with Joao. Today we were revising the paper that was published by Hui in just in 2015, and Joao today told me, unfortunately, the Silong helmet. Silong is an American company who is manufacturing a old fashion of a big helmet. Unfortunately, in the paper, we state in the results that Silong did very, very bad and did a lot of leaks when used in bi-level ventilation, because they use up to 20 centimeters of water of bi-level, up to 10 of PIP. My personal guess is if you are using Silong, because Silong is a collar that look like a condom, you know, okay? But my personal guess is if you are using Silong in genuine CPAP, okay, genuine CPAP, I guess that the ceiling could be good. Obviously, if you increase pressure and you want to use B-level, but you don't need to use B-level, okay, I guess the ceiling could be quite good. If you have the opportunity to buy Silong, my personal guess that is Silong could protect you, okay, if you are able to find some company that they are able to sell you Silong. In Italy, we have a company. The name is Harold. They have a Silong. You can ask them to have a Silong. Then, obviously, you have to use a Venturi system. You have to filter the port of the Silong with antibacterial filter. Okay, so you need antibacterial, and in this way you can protect not only you but also the environment. This is a message I have for you.
Okay, so thanks a lot. I think you've pointed the important issues on this topic. So unfortunately, as I said to you, we don't have a lot of helmets, maybe, you know, like this in my hand. And so we have to treat these patients with a plan B solution. And so now I would like to show you some slides and ask you to comment on what some people from Portugal, some people from Spain have decided to increase the safety of these systems to make sure that, as you mentioned, the healthcare workers working closely to these patients are not at risk of being contaminated. So I'm going to share my desktop and try to show you some of the slides that I wanted. This is one circuit modification. This is something proposed by the French group, which is a single limb with an active valve. So if you and you can see the mouse, do you? You can see the mouse, right? So in this situation, you have a disposable non-vented mask. So you have the elbow that's blue, and then you have the circuit, and you have the ventilator, and you have a filter here coming out, a bacteriological filter, which is yellow, coming out of the ventilator. And then you have the active valve here, and then you have here some diversion, which is the expiratory valve, and you have the filter. So would you agree that this is a possibility to avoid the risk of dispersion of particles coming from the patient?
Okay, Joao, the yes, but you have another solution, because CPAP generated in this way means that the patient is increasing, okay, the CPAP not constant, because the demand flows, okay, do you understand what I'm saying? It's not continuous flow. In this way, what are you doing is not continuous flow CPAP, but it's a demand flow CPAP. Do you agree? Because we have a demand valve.
Yes.
Okay, so this is not the best for the patient. So this in this way, even the patient have a lower respiratory rate. The risk is that the patient could potentially increase the respiratory rate because he's working with a demand valve. Okay.
Okay.
So the other problem is, if you are working with this system, the problem is how to generate high FiO2. It's almost, okay, it's impossible, because it depends on the flow generated by the patients. You have another possibility, okay, to do the same configuration with much more better results. You use the same mask, use the single limb with leaks. You do a leaks, okay, of about 4 or 5 millimeters, whatever you want, okay, where you insert the yellow filter, and in this way you have a continuous flow CPAP and not a demand flow CPAP. In the same way, okay, you can protect the environment. It's very simple to do, Joao. Just you have to create a 5 millimeter hole right here and put the filter. Okay. Do you understand what I say?
Yeah. So now let me show you a kind of setup that is with a ventilator that is capable of doing 100% FiO2 and has a more effective turbine, right? So in this case, we have a single limb circuit. We have here the expiratory valve, and we have the filter with, again, in this case, an oral nasal mask, also non-vented. So we have the blue elbow. So doing CPAP and high FiO2 with this ventilator and with this mask, of course, it's not like the helmet that you are much more protected, so there is no leak at all. In this case, although we could have some leak, but this, if the patient is well adapted to the face, maybe it's another possibility. What do you think?
Yes. Listen, this is perfect. This is perfect. You have two filters. One is on the expiratory port of the single lip. This is a intentional leak system. Okay. Yes. So you have you put the intentional leaks here. That's correct. Where is the violet point? That's correct. You have the intentional leaks right here. Is correct.
Yes, that's correct. Here is the intentional leak.
This intentional leak. Okay, you have a lot of dead space. Okay, maybe you expected to have a higher CO2. Okay, I hope that this not increase the patient respiratory drive. Okay, but it's a good solution. Again, remember one important thing, Joao. You are doing just genuine CPAP. Genuine CPAP that does not need to tighten a lot the mask. So the patient can have very small leaks with not a very tight mask on the face, okay? Because the problem is, remember, the patient can stand CPAP for many days. So the important thing is the patient comfort. So even you use this mask usually have not much more leaks than a total full face mask. You can use also a total full face mask if you want, okay? Okay, the problem is just that using a total full face mask in this configuration, you have just a bit higher amount of CO2 rebreathing, okay?
Yeah. So this is another possibility. So not with the single limb active valve like the ones that I show you at the beginning. So this is one single limb without an active valve, but with a normal expiratory valve, so a kind of a whisper swivel. And this is the solution that in the UK, the group from the Brompton has shown to let the people use these kind of circuits without more safety. They have done a nice study about the droplets that come out from the patient that is on NIV like this, and with this simple, expiratory port with the filter, they have decreased the number of droplets coming from the patient. So this is another option. What do you think of this option?
It's very good, because the amount of the dead space is much more less.
So you have an increase in dead space here, right?
Yeah, you have a decrease in the space, and you can even use a total full face if you want in this case, I guess.
Yeah.
Remember, Joao, usually to have a good washout, okay, we need at least a 5 millimeter hole. Okay, you have to create a hole by yourself because you are increasing dead space. So you need more flow inside to flush the mask. So the higher is the hole, the higher is the amount of flow that flush the system. It's like to have a small helmet. You understand what I say?
Yeah.
So, because remember, you have to avoid an increasing of the patient respiratory due to of carbon dioxide. Is be able not to remove the mask from the patient face if we can, okay?
Yeah.
Because the treatment could not be. So remember another important point. Can you switch back to the former slides? Okay. So if you use a ventilator that does not have a blender like the Evo or the V60 or the V40, the problem is how to increase the FiO2 in this system. It's not easy. It's not easy, almost impossible, because you need a large amount of flow, up to, I guess, 40 liters per minute inside the ventilator. I didn't do any kind of measurement, but I guess that all depends on patient flow. If the patient is doing 1 liter per minute of flow, that means 60 liters to obtain 100% of CO2, you need 60 liters per minute of oxygen. Okay?
So let's talk to you about this other setup. So here we have a ventilator that allows a double limb.
I don't like it. Joao, switch to the second one. I don't like the manual CPAP. I guess that you can do, go on the second slide. The one, even though you don't use the V60, okay, and you use another turbine-driven ventilator, you can you can add the whatever amount of oxygen you want, because the machine, if you discuss it with Will Troschel, is intelligent. So if you put much more flow, you don't increase PEEP, because the machine is intelligent and decrease the amount of flow to maintain stable the PEEP level. Okay? So if a demand valve is a pain in the neck, I wouldn't use this kind of system. But I prefer to use the one they use at the Bronton Hospital. Okay, even you don't have a very good, a very powerful Busisti, you can put an intentional leak configuration. Then you put inside 30 liters of genuine oxygen inside the machine. On another outlet, you increase FiO2. Okay, you can read the FiO2 with a cell, but you still have a genuine continuous flow CPAP system, and not a demand one.
Okay. So this kind of setup that because not all our common ventilators have the possibility to have a dual limb. In this case, this ventilator has this possibility, and so here you have two filters, one in the expiratory and another from the inspiratory limb, and then finishing with the blue elbow. I mean, if we have this configuration of double limb without any intentional leak, what would you say? Is this more safe? Is better than the other solution?
Joao, it's not more safe, because anyway you are filtering the air in the same way. The problem with the system is one advantage and one disadvantage. The one advantage, you can monitoring tidal volume. Okay. Also, you can also a very good estimation with the intentional leaks. If you use a Philips device, the Philips device is able to give you an estimation of tidal volume also with intentional leaks, as you know. Okay. CPAP. Okay. If you want to use this system and you want to measure tidal volume, you have to add a very small amount of pressure support above the PEEP to compensate for the valve. For example, if you use 10 of CPAP, you can use 5 of pressure support just to compensate for the additional work the patient is doing for the valve.
So if you use the helmet, so this would be the setup with a filter, and if you use a total face mask, so the Perform Max or the Fit Life, you also need.
Wait. You can see. Wait. You cannot use genuine CPAP with a double limb circuit with conventional ICU ventilator, because the amount of is not enough. You are obliged to use bi-level. Okay, bi-level.
So if I come back to this slide, here, so you with this setup here, you would not recommend to perform CPAP.
I don't hear you.
So with this setup here, you don't recommend to use CPAP as the mode of ventilation, right?
No. If you want to use this, you have to add 5 of pressure support at least. Okay. But you are if you have to use helmet, okay, you can use the configuration that Bill Troschel told you this morning, okay, or you use a conventional Venturi system, okay. It's more easier. If you want to use helmet, if you have the possibility to get some helmet, the easiest configuration is a Venturi. There is a Venturi system from one side of the helmet, then you put a filter and the PIP valve. End of the story. Okay? Or if you are able to get the other configuration that allow you to measure tidal volume, you can buy the one from Bill, okay, from Philips one. If you have to use CPAP with a turbine driven, okay, CPAP, I would use the configuration from the Brompton Hospital, feed it with much more oxygen if you need it inside, okay? This is the simplest, okay, configuration, okay, and in which the patient is breathing CPAP, genuine CPAP with additional effort. Problem is how to compute FiO2, but roughly, you know, if the patient is doing a flow of 50 liters per minute, just I give you a number, okay? The flow on the machine is 50.
One last question, Cesare, because a lot of people believe that high flow nasal cannula oxygen is also a good alternative and could be for some patients one option between CPAP and NIV. So according to your experience, and you have done a lot of studies comparing high flow and NIV, what do you think, also coming from your colleagues in the field, what are the results of high flow nasal cannula oxygen in this situation?
Is better than using bi-level, okay, no doubt, because again, you do not increase transpulmonary pressure. You have to pay a lot of attention for contamination, okay? So you can put the mask. In our institution, we put high flow inside the helmet, okay? Okay. So the way we avoid contamination. Theoretically, the way to defend, as you know, is to put a surgical mask on the patient face to try to defend. Yes. Anyway, high flow is better than bi-level. We have to convince all the people that you kill the patient with bi-level, okay? Because you increase pulmonary pressure. And you lose the point, because you have to monitor respiratory rate and dyspnea. If the respiratory rate and dyspnea remain low, even the patient with a very low PO2 ratio. For example, the patient stay well with 150, okay, it's not dyspneic, it's not tachypneic, I keep using non-invasive respiratory support. But at a given point, the PO2 ratio is going down, okay, and the respiratory rate is increasing, and dyspnea is increasing, I intubate the patient, okay, it is the end of the story.
É com enorme prazer que termino esta sessão. Foi o terceiro webinar da Sociedade Portuguesa de Pneumologia dedicado à insuficiência respiratória e à pandemia Covid-19. Para a semana teremos uma nova sessão. Estão todos convidados e, por favor, se tiverem algumas questões acerca deste webinar, enviem-nas para o e-mail da Sociedade Portuguesa de Pneumologia. Quer o professor Ambrosino, quer o professor Gregoretti poderão tentar responder, uma vez que não foi possível fazer este webinar ao vivo e online. Muito obrigado pela vossa atenção e até breve.